WMFD.com. It's J. Fox Coffee Talk with J. Fox, live from the Cove Coffee Shop. And joining us in our backroom studio today, Brandon Clayton from Kingwood Center Gardens. Brandon, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I got to tell you, when I moved here in October, probably the very first event I was exposed to was the Pour 19 Beer Fest in October at Kingwood Center Gardens. All these years that I grew up in Ohio, I never knew about Kingwood Center Gardens. I never visited Kingwood Center Gardens. And I walked in and I thought I was on the grounds of the set of Downton Abbey.
Yeah, it's a good feeling to have, definitely.
It is a good feeling. What do you feel like royalty working there?
It is definitely nice to go to work every day and see the gardens and be in that environment. It's very calming. I know it's a stressful day at work. It's just to go outside and be in nature, you know, and enjoy, especially on a good sunny day. It's nice to have that, definitely. So it definitely feels out of place in Ohio. It almost feels like you're in Europe, which I love that vibe that Kingwood gives off. So
Kingwood Center Gardens it's a gift to the community. Charles Kelly King was first an engineer at Ohio Brass, worked his way up to become the CEO and president of that organization, and Ohio Brass was part of the fabric of what made Mansfield, Ohio such a great town. How did the bequeath of that estate come down?
Basically from Mr. King's passion and love for the estate and for gardening and for Mansfield, by willing the property to the endowment that we have now to operate off of. That really set the paver of getting that up and going in 1953. Obviously, when we opened, he passed away in 1952. So from then on, we've continually been improving on the property, and that leads into what we have going on now with our Garden Gateway Center opening next year.
I know this significantly predates you, but I also know you have a passion for history like I do. What was the condition of the estate in 1953? Was it in good condition, or had it fallen into disrepair?
You know, I'm really not sure. I know we have a lot of historic photographs of that era, and it seems that it was in decent shape, but obviously I'm sure it's in probably much better shape now, as we've taken the time and effort to, preserve what we can and improve on what needed improved on. A lot of the construction that has happened in between now and then has been for the sake of trying to keep things as original as possible and keep that same look and feel that Mr. King had established when he built the gardens, to try to keep that alive and well. So
a lot of times when you do a preservation project, you rely on photographs because it obviously predated. I mean, there may have been some early video, but it really predated video. Did you rely on people who had come either as guests or had been involved in the estate?
I'm not sure for the planning what we have now per se, but I do know that the architects and designers had used the inspiration of what content they did have available to them to design that space and design what the gardens that we have now in lieu of what Mr. King would have wanted. Trying to keep that vision alive was definitely part of the inspiration. But beyond that, I wasn't there for that process, so I'm not exactly sure. I wish I was, but I've only been at Kingwood for almost a year now. So,
well, welcome, congratulations. I have to tell you, I have job envy because I'd love to hang out at Kingwood. In fact, one of the cool things that you actually allowed me to do a couple months ago was to peek behind the curtains in the kitchen and kind of look around and see what life was like. And in a lot of ways, it reminded me, I don't know if you've ever been, but it reminded me a little bit of the Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina, where they very carefully preserved the servants' quarters so that the appliances and everything looks as though it looked in the time when the Vanderbilt family actually occupied the residence.
Sure, I have been to Biltmore, and I definitely appreciate what they've done to preserve that as a historic home museum, and that's definitely where we would like to be to that level once we move out of the building, out of our offices, and open the third floor up in the future. I can't say for sure when that's going to happen, but it's going to take some time, but that's definitely the goal, is to open the bedrooms and the bathrooms and the servants' bedrooms and all of that third floor level. I think people really would be interested in seeing, so that's definitely on my radar to get to that point in the next, hopefully, a couple years here. So.
When was the original house built? What year?
1926 is when the house was built, and I believe that the family moved in, I believe, in 1929.
All right.
So it took a couple years to build the structure and get it to the point where it was able to be moved into.
So how interesting to build a house in a time of prosperity only to face, just a mere 4 years later, the most horrific impacts of, I mean, it was actually the year that they moved in was when the stock market crashed in 1929, and then the Great Depression that followed. Well, we don't know how difficult it must have been to maintain a house of that size.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, in today's standards, owning and living in a home like that, around 20,000 square foot home, it would be pretty spectacular to achieve that, especially during that era of time. Definitely.
Now, is the house fully heated and air conditioned?
It is not actually air conditioned, so we do not have central air. We have individual central air units in our offices, but beyond that, no. But it is heated.
So going up to the third floor in August is probably an unpleasant experience.
It could be, yeah, especially once our air conditioners are maybe not there anymore. Yeah, it gets a little warm, but the breeze is great. The windows all open up and provides a great cross breeze. So that's definitely what we rely on to stay cool in the hot summer months.
What does it cost to heat a 20,000 square foot house in the month of January? That's got to be like a $5,000 bill.
I don't deal with the billing, so I have no idea, but that's actually a really good question. Our business manager would be the best one to ask.
Is the business manager the one that comes by and sets the thermostat at 65, and you're the one that comes by and puts it back up to 68?
Luckily, she doesn't mess with any of that, but she just writes the check. But yeah, I'm sure it's not cheap to cool and heat a home like that. It's not the most energy efficient. Obviously, it wasn't built for that back in the day, but it is brick, so that does help keep it a little cooler, I think, than in
brick provides some natural insulation, but most of those houses had no insulation. Definitely. And I think about the houses that I grew up with in Shaker Heights, which were all built around the same time, and I have friends who literally have shuttered portions of their house just to contain the costs.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, in old homes like that especially, it's a tough one. Yep. The attic is really, really warm in the summer, and that's actually where we keep all of our Christmas decor for Christmas at Kingwood. So the attic is definitely, you don't want to go up there in the summer if you don't have to.
Got it. So 47 acres, that's a lot of land.
It is.
How many people does it take? This is one of those, how many people does it take to screw in a light bulb? How many people does it take to maintain 47 acres of land on a regular basis?
So in our seasonal, which is now staffing, we have probably about 40 staff, about half of which are seasonals that will be done with their seasonal positions at the end of our busy season, which is pretty much the end of October. But yeah, it definitely takes a lot of staff to keep things going, especially in the horticulture and maintenance departments. Those are vital to keeping things running as you see them on a day-to-day basis. So it's a lot of work, a lot of mowing and a lot of pruning and planting, and we have a huge volunteer base, so we definitely couldn't do what we do without them. We have about 100, I believe about 100 active volunteers that come very frequently to assist in all aspects of what we do.
So this is your first year. Were you around last year at this time, or when did you start?
I actually started in July, so I was in Florida prior to that. I'm from Ohio originally, but I worked in Florida at another public garden for a few years. So I was not here at this time of year last year. So
you have no historic perspective about planting season. All you know is that we've had horrible rains, horrible weather, and the ground is gross.
Yeah. Mansfield's weather is very different than, obviously very different than Florida, but also very different than in more central Ohio, which is where I'm from. The weather's completely different sometimes from, one city to the next. Comparison from Mansfield to Newark, which is where I'm from. So.
Sure. Well, it's been tough because everything's running at least a good month behind. So where are you in the planting of flowers and cultivating the beauty that one would expect to see in June? When is that all going to come to fruition?
Well, I believe they just finished all the annual plantings, so you'll notice all the flower pots, all the display gardens, they're all planted now. Of course, they'll need some time to mature to get that full bloom effect. So hopefully later this month it's going to look great. But yeah, it's a little behind, especially with all of our construction that's been delayed from the weather as well. So.
Well, let's talk about that construction because you guys are changing the entryway. You're going to have a new gateway house, the Garden Gateway project with a new visitor center. And obviously there have been some parking changes as a result of that. So where do you pull in now?
So we have two entrances now. If you haven't been to Kingwood lately, we have Linden Road and the other gate on Park Avenue. Okay. So there's parking on Park Avenue, luckily, but it is a smaller lot, so it does tend to fill up on busy weekends. But Linden Road is a great entrance, especially for volunteers and members, people wanting to go to the greenhouse and shop. That's a lot closer access point to get to those areas.
And I also noticed the folks at Spitzer down the street, they took their abandoned car lot and they've allowed you to use that until they sell the property.
Definitely. So that's been really helpful. The Mansfield senior staff lot has been helpful, and the Spitzer lot especially has been helpful for our big event days and just busy weekends in general. I know on Mother's Day weekend, it was a big weekend for us, and we definitely had to use those overflow lots then. So
will Trimble Road be the main entrance?
It will. Next year, hopefully in June when we open the new complex, if not using that parking lot before that, might be a possibility as well. But yeah, Trimble Road will be the main access point once the project is complete.
And how close to Trimble Road is this new visitor center going to be?
It's basically in the parking lot that currently sits on Trimble Road.
Okay, so you still get that long winding drive back?
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's still going to be the same pattern as you had known it in the past, but the Trimble lot that you had used prior, that's actually where the building will sit, or is going to be sitting now. There's a big pile of moved dirt there now where the building will be constructed. So okay. That whole area will be basically the new site. The new parking lot will be pushed back closer to the tree line off of Trimble Road. So.
Right. Now, will your offices be in the visitor center once the project is complete?
They will, yeah. Okay. We're moving all of our staff offices that are in the house currently into the new building. So we're really excited to have those new office spaces, and of course they will be air conditioned.
Yeah, you knew I was going to ask that. I'm like, hey, are you getting air conditioning, or are they going to make you tough it out? So much to do and see when you come to Kingwood Center Gardens. Obviously, the mansion is, as much of a draw as the gardens themselves. Is it a combo tour? Does it need to be done separately? How does that work?
I definitely would do it all in one visit. We did open the mansion, extending the hours and some of the rooms that were available that weren't on the self-guided tour last year. So we've expanded that to allow people to have more access to things that they priorly would not have seen. So
now, is there a charge to see these things?
So it's $5 per adult. Kids 12 and under are free. And that gets you access to the mansion and the gardens, the greenhouse, everything. So it's kind of one-stop shop, one fee to get in. We have 2 admission booths, one at Linden, one at Park Avenue. You can pay at either one and then have access to everything beyond that.
Now, is there an audio tour that accompanies a trip through the mansion?
There is not. There is.
See, I was spoiled by the Biltmore estate. I paid the extra $50, got the headphones, and went walking and heard like some big voice say, and now we're going into the galley. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's definitely something that would be nice to have. That's probably something that we would roll out into a mobile app in the future. We don't have that now, but we would like to. We've looked into that, and kind of planning ahead for something like that, for more self-guided visit to Kingwood and expand that experience. So that's hopefully coming the next couple of years. We'll see. So,
what goes on in the greenhouse?
So a lot of production, a lot of the things that you see in the garden, especially the annuals and a lot of the perennials, are produced on site. They do purchase some things to plant in the garden, but a lot of it is produced in-house. But the greenhouses that you can see as a visitor to Kingwood, we have 2 different display greenhouses as well as our greenhouse sales area, which that greenhouse sales area will also be moving into the new building for a much expanded upon retail area for plant sales and regular gift shop type items. So we're really excited for that. But you will still be able to visit the greenhouses as the display greenhouses after the building is done for the Garden Gateway Center.
Now, as you're roaming the grounds, you're going to see a beautiful array of colored flowers of all kinds of different species, if you will, but one species that is absolutely beautiful that has just as much color, if not more, are your peacocks.
Oh, yes.
How many peacocks do you have?
I believe there are around 8 right now, and they are very active this time of year. It's their breeding season, so they are all over the gardens.
So don't disturb the peacocks when they're busy.
Yeah, they're pretty friendly. You don't want to touch them, but you can definitely get close to them, take pictures of them. That's not a problem. We have had some issues with them running out the gate to get into the neighborhood, especially on Linden. So our
they're trying to go over to Empress Express and have some Chinese food. Is that what's going on?
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, they're running out a lot lately, more so than I believe has happened in the past. So we're trying to contain them, keep them into Kingwood, keep them in our property. We don't want them getting injured. So
apparently not. Now, do the ducks keep them in line, or they kind of stay separate from one another?
The ducks kind of hang out in the duck pond and mind
their business.
Keep to themselves. They don't really interact too much with the peacocks. The peacocks definitely kind of run the show. They're the head honchos at Kingwood for sure. So
okay.
The visitors love taking pictures of them. Yesterday, one had its feathers all out to the full extent and was dancing around in the courtyard, and a whole group of visitors were just loving it, taking pictures and videos, and it was a big attraction.
Was it disco or EDM or what was going on?
I don't know. I think he was making his own music. So,
what is the Peacock Playhouse?
Peacock Playhouse is a educational area that we have every Tuesday through our season. It's called Cultivation Education. It's a free program for mainly for preschool age children.
Okay.
So that's not the only thing that happens there. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's going on Tuesdays at 10:30 is when that starts. It's about an hour-long program. So it's very hands-on, educational. But beyond that program, the Peacock Playhouse is open from 10 to 6 every day that Kingwood's open, and guests can go in and take their children, and it's there's lots of books and games and horticultural, gardening themed educational experience for young kids to
and not just for young kids, because I understand you've got a library full of books on gardening.
We do. Actually, they're not in the Peacock Playhouse, just the kids' books are there, but we do have a large collection of gardening books in Kingwood Hall.
So do you have gardening for idiots? Because that's what I would need.
I bet that's probably in there somewhere.
that little series of books for dummies.
Exactly.
Because if somebody's going to kill a plant, it would be me.
Yeah, it's a good resource for information for sure. Now you can't check the books out, but you can
sit and
read them if you ask, inquire about that when you come into Kingwood Hall.
8,000 books. Did any of those books come from the original library of Charles Kelly King?
We do have original books from him. Granted, I'm not exactly sure in the library itself which one. Right. A lot of his are secured and locked up as they're more valuable in areas in the home where we keep them secure. But there is a large collection of books, and he really started that process by his love for reading, and that was primarily before radio and TV were as popular, of course, as they are now. So that was kind of
yes, you had to rely on a whisper campaign at a private party to find out what was going on.
Exactly.
Or read the society page in what was the newspaper.
Sure.
Yeah. So summertime is here. Lots of events coming up this weekend. The 10th annual 5K run. That's a big deal.
Yeah, we're expecting a lot of people for it. It's the big 10-year, annual version of that. So we're hoping that it's a really big hit this year. So.
Are you running?
No, I will not be. I will be there, but no, I'm not a runner.
Okay. How many runners will there be?
I don't know the limit of how many we have signed up at this point. I haven't looked today.
But it's significant.
But it's a few hundred, I believe, will be there.
And is there a prize for the winner of the run?
There are prizes. There are refreshments and awards, and we are having a coffee vendor there on site as well. But yeah, there are prizes for the winning runners.
Now, can you participate and walk, or do you have to run?
You can walk. Yep,
okay.
That is fine as well. The pre-registration early bird fee has expired, but you can still register and pay the $25 fee either online or at the gate.
Or if you know a peacock, then you get consideration.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Right, because they run the show. That's what you said.
Yes, definitely.
Tell me a little bit about the Paper Garden exhibit by Leah Gray. Is that going on now?
It is. It's going on until the end of August.
Nice.
And it's in Kingwood Hall, so you get access to that with your general admission. It's a pretty awesome display of paper, which you wouldn't think, that paper could be formed to be such a beautiful piece of art. It's
if
much
you can
more
make a
than
swan
origami.
out of a piece of tinfoil, you can do anything with paper.
True. Yeah, it's much more elaborate than you would think. It's very realistic. It's definitely very lifelike. So it's a pretty cool exhibit.
And does that come with your general admission, or is that a separate thing?
It does come with general admission. So no need to pay anything extra. It's all included.
Now, we talked about the Pour 19 Beer Fest, and we'll be doing that again in October.
Yep, exactly.
This year, I believe it's going to be on a Saturday, which is really cool.
Able to move that date, which was great. So
okay, but beyond beer, you've got a wine walk coming up. When is that?
We do. That's on June 22nd is our wine walk.
Okay.
And we expect this to be our biggest and best year yet. We've made a lot of changes to the event in consideration with what our guests had given us as far as feedback from the past two events. We've taken that information and tried to make the event even bigger and better by offering more pours and more entertainment, more options, and still keeping the price point really low at $25 for the members and $30 for the non-members.
So you get a glass of wine. It's in a plastic cup, right?
It's actually in a glass.
You're in
real
glass.
Yes.
Okay.
So we get a real glass, wine glass, and then a bag of some other goodies when you check in.
Okay.
And then there's 8 actual alcohol vendors, 7 which are wine and 1 beer. We did add the beer for the folks that may not like the wine, so we're trying to help appease everyone.
Just like we had the wine for the folks that don't like the beer at our festival.
Exactly. That was a great concept. So we're kind of replicating that, but flipping it for ours. So
and then you have your glass of wine and you stroll.
Yep. There's 3 different forms of entertainment throughout the event, as well as all the food vendors and of course the 8 alcohol vendors. You get 2-ounce pours. You get 8 of those with your ticket that you get when you check in.
Okay, are any of those wine vendors local?
Some of them are, some of them are not. So we're in the process of creating our map of the event that we'll hand out when everyone checks in. It'll have all the information about the vendors on it. But yeah, there are some local vendors. Most of them, I would say, are, but there's a few that are out of the county as well. So.
At the beginning of the interview, we talked a little bit about Charles Kelly King and his experience with the Ohio Brass Company. You have an Ohio Brass exhibit. What does that entail?
Sure, that exhibit was put in last year. This is the second year for it. We'll probably change it next year. I'm not sure exactly the theme of it. We're still trying to format that. But it is in Kingwood Hall. So again, free with admission, so no need to do anything extra. But it is a great exhibit that showcases the history of not only Kingwood, but Mr. King and his career and really what made Kingwood what it is today by having the Ohio Brass backbone of what his career, what he made with the company. It showcases all the artifacts of not only what the company made, but kind of their legacy as well, and kind of a great timeline of that process.
That's going to be a great exhibit. What is the Townsend House?
Townsend House is another property that Kingwood acquired.
Okay.
And it's not really connected to Mr. King directly. It was after his passing, and of course after the Kingwood opened in 1953, that later we acquired that property. But it is another mansion. We do give tours of that starting on July 11th. We give tours every Thursday of that. I think it's from 5:30 to 6:30, and you can register online for that. It is limited for availability to get in on those tours, but we do have quite a few of them, and I know a lot of the public's been really interested, and I think it's just because of the curiosity of what's back there. So right now it's pretty much a vacant mansion, but we hope to do more with it in the future, but no plans set in stone as to what that's going to be yet.
Now, is Kingwood Center on the National Register of Historic Places?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole property really is, especially the house, of course, with Kingwood Hall, but the property in general is actually on that registration.
So does that come with a set of standards that you have to maintain?
Yeah, definitely a pretty strict set of standards of things that you have to maintain and things that you can't change to keep the historical integrity of the property intact, to maintain that, that listing.
So this is a full-time situation for a lot of people. How many people does Kingwood Center Gardens employ?
Well, I think, we have about 40 that are seasonal, or I should say about 20 that are seasonal and about 20 that are full-time. So about 40 in total, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
That's a pretty healthy staff.
Yeah.
As if there wasn't enough to do, now you have workshops? What are you teaching people?
So a lot of relevant information with horticulture. So that's our main focus, of course. We do have other workshops. We have a beekeeping workshop coming up. We have yoga. We have a whole series of educational programs for kids, as I mentioned. Kind of across the board, we want to make sure that we offer a good price workshop for the community, regardless of what their interest is. We kind of want to appeal to everyone as best we can.
We need to help the bees.
Yes, definitely. So
they keep creeping closer and closer to extinction, and I don't think people realize how important it is to preserve and resurrect the bee population.
Definitely. We have a lot of pollinators on site with the type of horticulture that we have.
Is that a word, pollinators, or did you just make that up?
No, didn't make that up. It's an actual word? It's an actual word, yeah.
Okay.
So it's
to pollinate, if you pollinate, you're a pollinator.
It's the type of plant that the bee would utilize to obviously gain the pollen and make the honey.
Right.
So we do have a lot of those specimens on site, which we do have some bees actually on site. We have a beehive as well, which is part of the reason why we want to expand people's knowledge of beekeeping and offer that workshop, which is very beginner's level start to that process. So hoping to help increase knowledge in general for that.
Brandon Clayton has been our guest today with Kingwood Center Gardens. We want you to visit the gardens, attend the events, join, become a member. How much is membership?
Yes. So membership is definitely affordable. There are several different levels, and we actually have a special going on right now. So we have a 15% off discount on all membership levels if you sign up online, and if you mention the code word podcast. So that's a great benefit for the community. Gets you access to a lot of special events, such as Wine Walk. They get members get a 1-hour preview from 5 to 6 prior to the event. So that's just one extra benefit that we have. The workshops get a discount. Pretty much all of our events get some sort of discount, as well as the reciprocal benefit with other public gardens, which is a great feature as well. So that's through the American Horticultural Society reciprocal admissions program, which is, I know, a mouthful, but
it is a mouthful, but you got through it, so good job.
Well, thank you.
Now, you can have events there. Weddings obviously would be the most popular choice, but all kinds of events. Do they call you?
They actually call our events coordinator. Her name is Beth Ann Jarvis. She handles all the bookings for weddings, but if you're interested in that, you can certainly set up a time to come and meet with her. That's the best way to really learn about what wedding venues that we offer, what
Sure.
the prices are. So that's definitely something that's going to continue to grow for us as a public garden. Weddings are a huge aspect of most public gardens operations, and how we help to support ourselves and maintain, what we do and what everyone comes to enjoy from Kingwood.
Lots of information on the website. Let's give the website URL for those that want to explore more
Sure.
about donations, volunteerism, and special events.
Sure, it's kingwoodcenter.org.
Kingwood Center, TER,
TER.
kingwoodcenter.org.
ORG,
And
yeah.
the phone number?
It is 419-522-0211.
Okay. Brandon Clayton with Kingwood Center Gardens has been our guest today on Coffee Talk with Jay Fox, live from the Cove Coffee Shop in Ontario, Ohio. You've been listening to WMFD TV on WMFD.com.